So on my last videos, I went through all the boards on this game, got everything working, but I've got this brand new or very new driver board and NPU. And frankly, I've got some older original boards that I've already gone through and refurbished, and I'd rather have them and have these on in stock than the old ones. These will be more valuable for me, so I swap them out and make a little bit of money. So I've got this one here, and I've got a tag on here. It says 100%, which means I've tested this at some point. So I'm going to swap this in for the driver board. I've also got this NPU here. This is from a Supersonic. It was 100% December of last year. And I'm looking at it, it's got two 2732 chips in position J2 and J6. And the ROMs for Black Pyramid are also in U2 and U6. So I think I can just, without having to redo any jumpers, I believe I can just reburn these ROMs and I'll be good to go. That's what I'm gonna try to do anyway. But before I do anything, I'm gonna plug this in the game, make sure it's still working because it's sat on the shelf for 6 months and been beat around a little bit. So I want to make sure it's working first before I do anything. So that way, if I burn these ROMs and it's not working, I'll know that I screwed it up by burning the ROM. So real quick, let's throw it in and see if she boots. All right, so to get the game to boot, you'll need that bottom left connector. So I'm gonna turn it on and we're gonna watch for the LED flashes. And no, it is not booting. Solid. Well, I'm glad I went through this nonsense because it's not working, huh? Well, that really stinks. Let me take a look at it. So I messed around with it a little more. I think these header pins are not in the greatest of shape, so I'm going to swap them out. I'm going to swap this pair out here also while I'm at it. The rest of them look pretty good, and see if that makes this thing boot a little more reliably. Well, I guess I missed filming the soldering back in, but y'all can just imagine I did it. It's done, and I snipped that off. I'm gonna throw it in the game now and see if it's booting reliably. Well, I wasn't paying attention, so these are the switches over here. They were actually the worst looking, but this is the one where it gets all its inputs, power inputs for booting. So I'm gonna swap this one out here real quick too. Okay, so I got it in there. Just turned it on, it's booting. So it's booted up. So this board is working. So now I'm gonna burn 2 new ROMs on there and get this thing, see if I can use this board instead of the Alltech. Okay, there's my 2 old ROM chips. These are some other chips I'm gonna erase also. So turn this dude on. You can see the little lights glowing, so I'll leave that on for 5 or 10 minutes and then I'll check to see that they're erased. Well, while I was waiting for the EEPROMs to erase, I went ahead and did this last header pin. This is for the all the displays. So I'm gonna go ahead and check this real quick. So I use this TQ 4x4 to program them. I've got my little note to put the chip in like that, all jammed all the way down. So I have a D2732D chip. So I'm going to look for the closest thing to that. And my program, I just launched it. It didn't launch, it crashed. So let me try to restart it here. Okay, so I just rebooted it. So I'm going to type in D2732. Well, I guess I'll pick this one. They say to pick the closest one that is available. So that's one I'm going to pick, and I'm going to select it. So it's loading the firmware for that, so I'm going to do a blank check. Blank check failed, so it's not blank. I didn't leave it in there for very long. It looked like it was about halfway through. So there's a little bit more data, so I'm going to throw it in the eraser for a little bit longer. See, for the sake of time, I've got some 2732s over here that are already cleaned. So I'll blank check them real quick here. I think all those over there should be good. Put the thread in there, do a blank check. And chip is blank, so I'll check this other one real quick. Blank check. Chip is blank. Okay, so now I've just got to go locate that file. Open. I think it's on my Google Drive. Jeez, where did I put it? I'm gonna have to go find where I put this file. I just saved it somewhere. I gotta figure out where I saved it. Okay, so I found the folder, Black Pyramid. I'm gonna show all files. So we'll burn U2 first. Open it. Okay, and we'll go try to write it. Hopefully it writes. Okay, it wrote, it verified. That's good. So that one's done. So I'll take it out of here. That's my U2. So this other one's going to be my U6. So open up that other file. Write it. Okay, so that's good. So before I go too far, I'm just going to put a 6 and a 2 on here. And I'm going to throw these in the board. So I got the board in there, those 2 chips in there, just the single connector that should allow that to boot. So let's turn it on and see if it boots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I think we're good. I might have missed a blink. I'm not sure. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the rest of the board and see if this thing will play and make all the right sounds. All right, so I plugged in. Okay, I got my high voltage there. Oh, shoot, I'm not even paying attention. Still got that issue. I may have a bad socket on that board. There it goes. So I still have an unreliability issue. Huh, not playing sounds. So I do have some issues with this board, or the ROMs are messed up. I guess there's that. Just making sure I put these in the right direction. I did. Didn't put them in backwards. Yeah, they're all notched on the left. Got all my connectors in properly. Huh. Well, that's not cool. Have to look at, figure out what I've done wrong here. So I was pulling this off and it broke, and there's that pin that goes in the middle. So now I get to repin this whole entire connector, which is just more brilliant fun. Ugh. That's 30 minutes of my life I'll never get back. And it also means I can't try out my board right at the moment. I mean, I guess I could if I really wanted to, but I don't want to that badly. Yeah, these old connectors, they just get old, brittle. Anyway, I think I'll stop for the day, and I'll come in the morning, redo this, and maybe put some sockets in some of those. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 6 of them. Yeah, I missed that one up there. That One up there is where I was pointing. Anyway, until tomorrow. Minor update here. Good news is I didn't break this. Bad news is, the reason I know that is because somebody has already soldered that wire to that pin. So, that kind of sucks. I'm going to have to desolder it, get that wire cleaned up, the little header pin cleaned up, and then put this new connector on. So, let's say 35 minutes of my life. So, I mentioned this before. One of the curiosities about, well, the original board here is it makes the 5 volts right here, and these chips need 5 volts, and the way it gets the 5 volts from here down here is this little jumper wire on this connector. It goes from the bottom one to, well, right where that orange one goes. I'm assuming this new board doesn't actually need that 5 volts is actually routed on the board. And I've done the same thing, probably, on this one. Yes, see that jumper right there? That accomplishes the same thing as this wire. So this wire is not necessary, but I'm going to put it on there anyway, just keep it in, keep everything intact. And this board, I don't know for certain that it takes the 5 volts down there. Certainly they fixed that bug of the board with this new model. I would think, anyway. Anyway, we'll keep going at it. So that's what that jumper looks like installed. So it literally takes the 5 volts from one of these header pins up here and takes it to that one, which takes it down to the bottom of the board. But again, I'm assuming that this board doesn't need that. It'd be kind of interesting to just take it off and see if it works without it. I bet it does. Because everybody that knows anything, that the clay upgrades, I think what most people call them, do that to these boards, along with some grounding upgrades. So I got that connector repin. I'm gonna boot it or turn the game on without anything else plugged in off this. So just to see if this is working, get all my voltages. And this thing's got all the LEDs, so I can see I've got all my voltages. That thing is twirling around. I don't know exactly what that means. Probably good. It was doing that before. So I think that's probably mostly all right. So I'm going to go ahead and my soundboard booted up. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the driver board and see what happened. All right, so I got the booting issue fixed. So I swapped out the 5101, no change. Swapped out the 6800, no change. I figured it would either get worse or better. If it was a problem with the chip and or the socket, just pulling the chip out and putting it back, you know, no change at all. It would, you know, it would sometimes lock on when you boot up, and it would seem like it'd be sensitive to how long it had been off. It had been off for a while, like 2 or 3 seconds, it would almost always start. If you went off on real quick, it might not work, or if it's set off for like 30 seconds or more, it might not work. So it seemed like the timing of getting the voltage of the board or something like that. So I figured, well, you know, let's try this other board. I put this other board on there. It has not stumbled one time. So I think it is some kind of an issue with the watchdog circuit. Maybe this new driver board either boots up, gets the 5 volts faster or slower than this watchdog circuit is expecting. Not sure, but I cannot get it to not boot reliably now. By the way, these are driving me crazy. I'm gonna have to take them off. For the most part on these games, I mean, it's not a horrible idea to label this stuff, but there's only one place they'll all go for the most part. I guess it's all right. It just drives me crazy, I guess. So I'm gonna one more thing. In a previous video, this diverter assembly underneath there, it's completely missing underneath. So I bought a part. I couldn't find the exact part, but I found this on eBay. It is a diverter assembly. It's from the Last Action Hero. So I'm going to do a little bit of work on here, make sure that this coil can be driven okay by one of those transistors and not pull too much current. So I'm going to see what the coil was in here, see what the resistance is, make sure the resistance is kind of in line with what this resistance coil has, make sure that I can rig this thing up to operate this diverter. Well, I unfortunately cannot find the coil number for the diverter for the Black Pyramid. It's not in the manual. I haven't been able to find it online. Did measure the resistance on this one. It's 15, 16 ohms. I was hoping it was going to be more than that, because this thing, when it's engaged, it stays on for long periods of time. I mean, you set that gate and it may stay on until the ball drains. So, depending on how long you play, minutes anyway. I'm gonna go look. I actually just happen to have a Last Action Hero in the shop and see how this is operated in the Last Action Hero. See if this is, even then though, I mean, this one's got a different transistor operating it, so it might be a higher current transistor that can handle more current for longer periods of time. But I'm gonna go look real quick. So I think that's the diverter right there. So that one, I don't know if that just goes pink until the ball goes. If it may just be kind of a momentary thing, or fairly momentary, where it doesn't stay engaged for minutes at a time. Not sure about that. Well, shoot. I'm gonna dig around, see if I can find the that coil for that game, see what the resistance is for it. Okay, I found it on. I should have looked here first on PinWiki. So that gate is a GA34 4000. So I got to look that up and find out how much resistance that's supposed to be. So I found that on Action Pinball, 189 ohms. That's what I figured is going to be a really high resistance. So that cuts down the current, so the coil doesn't heat up when it's engaged for long periods of time. So yeah, that's going to be a problem. So I'm not going to be able to. I was afraid that, because 15 ohms, that's not very much. That would burn up. It'd burn up one of those transistors if it was locked on, I believe. So not gonna be a plug and play. I found this in a junk bin I've got in the back. This is a 36 7000. So 36 is the gauge, so it's a smaller gauge and it's more wrapped. So I knew that this was going to have more resistance, and it does. It's like 589, so it's got almost 3 times the resistance as it should. So it's probably not going to be strong enough, but it's the right type of mechanism where, if that pivot point was attached to the end of this, it can make it rotate when it engages. And it's got a lot of resistance, so it's not going to burn up. But I still don't know the dimensions of that G34. If it's the same dimensions of as this one, I could slap it in this mech, and I gotta figure out a way to mount this, because it has to be mounted, well, some in this dimension, so that can pull, because that post is going to be sitting like that, make it wiggle like that. But I could figure that out as long as I could get if that G34 4000 fits in there. I bet it would. This is also Bally. I'm only $10 from Steve. Most of the coils, little small coils. I may just buy one and see if it'll fit in here, and then from here I think I can get it rigged up. So one of the last scenes, I basically was talking about I needed a different coil for this. I called up Steve, told him I needed the coil, told him what I needed it for. He's like, hold on, I'm gonna get it. That's why he talks, kinda. Anyway, he had this. It looks like it's from Harlem Globetrotters, but it's the whole assembly. So this is just gonna bolt up. It's got the whole Django. You're like in my face here. So yeah, I think he charged me $20 for the whole thing, and it's got the GA 4000 on there, or whatever it is, GA 34 4000. Yeah, so it's got the whole thing. I have this plate underneath there. I might just take those 2 screws off. Yeah, because I've got the plate and I've got that bushing and that part sticking up above the playfield right there. So really all I need is this. So all I gotta do is undo those 2 screws, put that in there, wire it up, and I think I'm in business. So I took those 2 screws out of this. So if I line that up. So that's going to go, that little deal goes right there. If I get those 2 bolt holes on there, so when this thing goes back and forth, well, hold my tongue right. Let me get it screwed in there and let's see if this thing's going to line up. I may have to calibrate this thing a little bit. All right, so I got it bolted in there, and it needs a little bit of calibration. When it's getting there, it's not actually all the way there. It's what's stopping it is it's hitting the stop on this side. So it's hitting that nail, but it could go further with, let me get y'all oriented. And it's not going quite all the way to the rail on the left. So it needs to open up a little bit further. So I'm gonna go ahead and, it seems like, almost seems like it's backwards, like it's, like that would be the normal state, and that would be the altered state, like the energized state there. I'm gonna wire it up. I just put, these don't have any labels or anything, I just put wire tape on them so they wouldn't short out anything. So now the yellow one there, daisy chain, that's the power side. So the power side is going to go to the banded side of the diode. If you didn't, it'll short right through the diode, blow that diode up, and blow the transistor up on the driver board. So I'm gonna put that one there. I'm gonna put that one there, and we'll see if this works in the proper state or the backward state. All right, so I wired that up underneath. Soldered it up, I should say. And so I'm in the game. So if I hit the A, I should open the gate. Whoops, missed it. Okay, opened it. It could go a little bit further open. So that's the right state. So let's go run. Well, I don't have a ball. Well, we'll just say we go through there. Yep. So that works. Let's do it again. You got it open, you run through that one, gives you a little delay for it to go through, and then it shuts back. The only thing I would say about this situation is that should go a little bit further. So I may tweak that underneath the playfield, adjust this on the shaft, or bend that armature a little bit, one or the other. Well, so I adjusted it, and now you can see that it doesn't open all the way. I'd rather have it the other direction, because it was going to catch the ball every single time. And this one, it might snag the ball, so I'm going to put it back the way it was, or maybe slightly in between. All right, so a little bit more adjustment. I think I got it about right. So it's touching that nail. Let me open the gate. And it's all the way over. Hit the switch. And it's backed up all the way. So got it just about right. So that's cool. Thanks, Steve, for the part. How's it? Saved me a lot of headaches. Yeah, if you need a weird part like that, you got to call Steve Young, the PBR. I mean, he had the whole assembly. I mean, he had the whole part. He had the rest of it also. Like I said, I just took the one part off there. He shipped it to me for $20. You can't beat that. I mean, heck. And plus now I've got this thing, so I got that going for me. So the only thing I've got left are redoing the flippers. And I got the last remaining parts I needed for those. I needed the little bushings that go on the inside of those. I didn't have any of those, so somewhere over here in my little box of goodies from him, there they are. So I've got those, and so I'm ready. Got all the rest of my parts to replace there, so I'm gonna redo these flippers, and this thing can be ready to go. I think I've got a bulb out. That's what I think. Or maybe these light up separately. Yeah, left flapper. Okay, let me hit my left flash. Let me hit my left bumper. Okay, now they're both blinking. All right. Gotcha. All right. I was like, dang it. It's always something. Somebody told me one time. I think it was Steve actually, because somebody said that they had all their everything working on the pinball machine. That somebody else said, "No, you're just not looking close enough," and that's probably about right. So one more set of parts arrived in the mail. These lane guides. This one's busted and been glued, and you see it's kind of got a kink to it. And this one is a homemade jobber. You can tell by the way it is. Anyway, so Cliffy does reproductions for these. I think it's like 20 bucks, but that's going to be a nice upgrade. These were originally plastic on this game, but these Cliffies are metal and can be really nice. I think this one just had a couple of plastic pieces. I'm going to look over here in my parts. But yeah, I had those two gray pieces supporting it. I don't think we're going to be able to see them either way, but we do need them to be the right height. So that the center of the ball is right on that ridge. So I'm going to put these in there, and I don't think that is not the same height. So one of them is wrong. So I don't know if I've got any of these metal bells. I don't think you can buy. Last time I looked, you couldn't buy them. Maybe somebody's got them now. So the first thing I'm going to do is take these bells off the old plastic, and to get them out, the old plastic, I usually just put the iron in there and heat them up. And once they get hot, I just push them through like that. Well, that one wanted to restick. Now, to get them into the Cliffy, that may be a little bit more difficult because it's metal. So I'm probably going to have to go ahead and shave that lip off of there. Yeah, so these things are not gonna fit. So that little edge around the perimeter there, I'm going to basically cut that off there. Just grind it off. Actually, I'm gonna take the grinding wheel and just grind that little lip off. And I like to use just the skull glue. It's plenty strong, and it's got a good applicator, so you can get it in the hole real easily. They put 2 toothpicks in that one. And I just jam them in, break it, twist, and leave it. Somebody's moved that one at some point or tried a new hole, not sure. And when you put these in, you don't have to wait for those to dry before you put it in. You just got to be careful that you don't. Sometimes when you screw it, you'll pull the toothpick out, but usually not. Another little thing to be careful at after you've glued in some toothpicks is when you push these in, don't just jam it real hard, or you'll just jam that toothpick in the bottom and it won't help you. You need that toothpick to stay along the side, so you need to thread your screw in along the side of the toothpick. And you'll know that worked because of the way that it feels. It ought to feel nice and firm, and then get really hard down the bottom, get really tight. And in 24 hours, when that glue is completely dry, that's a permanent repair. So that one's done. I'll do the other one. All right, so those are done. By the way, this game, didn't put a whole lot of effort into this game. It didn't do all the touch-ups that we normally would. It's a pretty rough game all the way around. Just didn't think it was worth. I shouldn't say it wasn't worth the effort. Economically, I can't do it. I got to budget my time a little bit more carefully. I touched up a little bit of the black. You probably don't notice it, but if you look at the videos from earlier, you probably see some of it. But I didn't go through and do all this and all that, and it just, it's just a lot. I probably will do something about that. Still got some more cosmetics to do, but not not too much more. Put some new caps on there, that really helps. Put all new posts, that really helps. New rubbers, obviously. It was already LED'd. Yeah, put those on there. Cleaned it up quite a bit. Yeah, I scrubbed and waxed the Playfield, and it does look a lot better, but it doesn't look spectacular by any means. Yeah, this sticker's all torn up, but you know, it's gonna stay that way. So next up, I am going to do these flippers. So I've already disassembled them. I just want to take them apart so I could know what parts were horrible. This bushing has probably got, I'm gonna swap it either way. That one's actually doesn't have a huge amount of play in it. And that one doesn't either. But I've got easy access and I'm gonna do it. This one I noticed the whole mech is loose. Let's look at the parts over here. This is the parts I took out of it. The plungers. I get that to focus. The tip of the plunger is fine. Nothing wrong with the plungers. The coil stops. I've got new coil stops in stock, but that coil stop, there's nothing wrong with it. These pawls, now that's a different story. That nylon piece there, you see how it's got that flat spot? It basically sits inside of right in there and pushes back and forth, so it's a wear item. You can't buy just that nylon piece, you gotta buy the whole thing. So that's what I've done. I got a couple of those. I got some new springs. I also got these little bushings here, which go right there. This one was missing. This one's there, but it's, you know, I don't know what they cost, 25 cents, 50 cents. It's going to get a new one. If I pull that out of there, it's probably, if you hold it up to the other ones, it's probably wallered out. You want that to be a pretty good fit, and it's dirty. So anyway, put in a couple of those. And these linear flippers, people complain about them, and the reason they complain about them is because they kind of suck. They have just crappy design, I guess. They used them for a few years, and they decided they weren't any good, and they stopped using them. Everything's got to be right, or they're weak if they're not, because they just have a lot of friction, because you've got that nylon piece that rides up inside of there. So they just don't work right. So anyway, I'm gonna put these all back together. I'm gonna start by taking these bushings out. On this one, I just looked, there's no nuts on the back side of this. A lot of times on this style, you gotta take the whole assembly off to get the nuts off the back. This one doesn't. I don't know if it originally did, maybe not. I know on some of the Williams, they had nuts on the back, maybe not on the Ballys. But anyway, the coil sleeves, I've already taken the coil sleeves out of here. Go ahead and take that out, that spring, because I'm going to replace it anyway. And we get busy putting in new parts. All right, I got this put together. I've got the flipper in there. I don't have it, I don't know if you can tell it's twisting there. I don't have it locked down. I'll adjust it later. I did notice when I put this in there, I didn't need that spring all the way up the top. I mean, it's got plenty of return spring. Putting it in the bottom one, that top one was not necessary. I think the reason they have them both is that they had the same part on both sides. It just flipped around, you know, so that's probably where it's supposed to go. In any case, that's where I'm putting it. If you put too much spring, it just makes your flippers weak because it's got that much more to fight. It's always good to adjust in the stroke switch after you do it, and that looks about right. I'm not gonna mess with that. So I'll do the same for the others, then I'll put the Playfield down to 45 and tighten these set screws and get the flippers set about where I want them. I just realized one mistake I had. Some of y'all may have seen it. I had those two set screws here, and there was another one up here. So when it came up here, that bottom set screw that came up this way, it just kind of clipped the bottom of that, which really not great because you get the 40 volts on the switch here It's not really going anywhere, but it's also opening that up prematurely if it opens it. That makes your flippers weak. So I've moved. There's actually 3 holes on here. So and if you order these, they're not in there, so you have to decide where they're going to go. To get this one in there, it's kind of a pain because this little nylon thing is kind of in the way. So you just have to jam it in there and get it started. It's a little difficult to get started, but it will go. All right, so these are just adjusted, good to go. That looks about right. I'm going to take a file and clean that switch. You hear people talking about don't ever use a file. What they're talking about is doing switches like this, which is 5 volts. You look at it real quick. That's gold. They're like, I don't know if they're gold plated. I think they actually are, or they were originally. You don't want to put a file on that because you'll take the plating off of it. But this is a tungsten switch, and you've got the 40 volts going right through that switch. And if it's not clean, it'll make your flippers weak. So about like that. And same for your flipper switches down here. I really need 2 hands to do this, but I usually one hand move the file and one to put a little bit of pressure on it. But you get the idea. All right, so I need some flipper rubbers, and I think obviously I need blue ones. So let me go back, look back, see if I've got some blue flipper rubbers. That looks better. Just booted it up. Let's start a game here, maybe play a little one-handed action here. Oops, I could have got that playing one-handed. I think it's actually good practice playing one-handed because it forces you to do bounce passes that you wouldn't otherwise do. Get you in the habit of doing that, at least for me, because I'm bad about not doing enough bounce passes, so it makes me remember to do that. Like here, I could probably get that. Yep, see? I wouldn't have normally done that. But it reminds me that that is an opportunity if I want this over to the left flipper. And on this game, well, I guess you got those bonus multipliers there on the other side. I think I'll switch. Well, lost the ball on the switch. Anyway, I'm going to stop this video here, and maybe in a couple days I'll do a gameplay video of the game. Hope you like the videos. If you do, click the like button and go ahead and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.